First of all, I want to address the reason that we're holding this press conference call right now instead of sitting at a table at the Advocate Center. This COVID-19 has disrupted the world in an unprecedented way. Our condolences to all those who have lost loved ones during this COVID-19 crisis. We all want to thank all the essential workers out there who are keeping our country running, all the doctors, the nurses, other hospital staff, government, city workers, grocery and retail workers, truck drivers, public transportation workers, you and everyone in our communities who are bravely facing this COVID-19 to help protect the rest of us. You're the real heroes right now, and that's really what is important in the world right now. Our Commissioner, Adam Silver, has done a great job of leading the league in this time. So many things are so uncertain, but I really believe he stepped up to put the health and safety of people first. So thank you for bearing with us as we do something different for this press conference while we're all sheltering at home. This is actually a very exciting day for the Chicago Bulls organization. And if you bear with me, I'm going to take a little bit of time and walk through the process that brought us here today, and then I'll turn it over to Arturas. John Paxson came to me and my dad back, I think it was around December, and we started talking, and he felt that the organization needed to make a change and upgrade. He felt we were too set in our ways. And, when you look at it, our basketball department had long been one of the smallest departments in the league, and it hadn't really grown with the times. And in John's words, we needed to make changes in terms of the leadership and structure that would set up the Bulls for the next 10 to 15 years. Essentially, I think what he wanted to do was make changes that would not only address immediate needs, but also would set the Bulls up for long-term success. And during these conversations with John, and there were multiple conversations, John also made it clear to us that he would change his role or step down if that's what was best for the Chicago Bulls, because at the end of the day, he's a Chicago Bull, and that's what he cares most about. At the same time, I was kind of struggling too, as most of you know, with trying and wanting to get the Bulls back on track. And it was difficult because even though, look, we made the decision to rebuild, we knew it was going to be hard in terms of losing. I looked at our draft record. We actually had some good drafts with Lowry Markkanen, Wendell Carter, and Kobe White. And then I looked at a lot of our injuries that affected our, and I saw what was going on, and obviously that clearly affected our record. But at the end of the day, what John is really good at is he's really good at simplifying the issue. And when he said the next 10 to 15 years comment to me, that really stuck with me. So at that point, after those initial conversations, I started to spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people and really trying to understand other teams' organizational structures. I really wanted to understand what other teams are doing differently than us. And during this process, I learned a lot. I learned that there's no one way of building a strong and sustainable operation or team, but the two keys to success are having the right people and the right processes in place. So during this time, John and I were talking and meeting on a regular basis. I started to share with him what I was learning, and John continued to share with me what he was thinking. And it was kind of at this point that John indicated to my dad and me that he was no longer the right person to lead the Chicago Bulls. And that's really the kind of person John is. And I've always said that. I said when the time came to make a change, John would be the one to let us know. And that is indeed what ended up happening. I was really excited, though, because it made the next steps clearer for me. We had a direction that we were going to go. We not only needed to grow our basketball operations department, but that one of the most important steps I had to take was to find the right person to lead our organization. I believe, this is my view of the role ownership should play in sports, and certainly in terms of basketball, is the ownership is responsible for hiring the right person to lead the basketball team, and then should step to the side and let the basketball people do their work. And if we pick the wrong person, it can take years to recover. And so we needed to get this right. So at the beginning of our search, we identified needs and areas of importance that we were looking for in our new basketball operations person. we consulted both across the league and outside the organization to observe, learn, determine the kind of qualities that we wanted to build our search around. I was really, I love the idea of bringing in someone from the outside to lead this organization. That's worked incredibly well on the business side, bringing people in who have new ideas and new ways of doing things different than the way we do it. I think it's terrific. So I kind of led the search, and we did an extensive search. I met with so many people. I spoke with other owners. I spoke to former GMs. I spoke to GMs. I spoke to agents. I spoke to members of even the media, people at the league. I spoke to former NBA players, people that were in our organization. Anyone who I thought could help me, I was willing to talk. I wanted to know who was out there that was ready to take the next step in their careers and move into the lead role. And the name that kept coming up at the time was Arturas. Through all the people I talked to, Arturas' name came up, as well as other really good candidates as well. My perspective is, and there's one thing I definitely learned during this process, that the Chicago Bulls are indeed an iconic franchise. And we are one that deserves a proven leader for our basketball operations department. So I was looking for someone with a wide range of experience. But of course, it's really important for me that we have someone who's passionate, hardworking, and really smart. That's kind of our mantra when we're hiring people at the Bulls. Those are givens, obviously. For us, though, we also needed someone who had experience in helping to build a successful basketball organization. A person who strongly believed in the benefits of great player development and understood how to build the best type of player development program. That was something that was essential to us. The talent internationally continues to grow, and the ability to navigate international basketball is more important than ever. The person we hired needed to be incredibly strong in that area. We wanted someone who would bring their own ideas and concepts and have a strong presence. A leader who will be process-oriented in trying to build a winning team. Someone who works collaboratively with others and surrounds himself with really smart people and develops talent in the basketball operations department. That was really important to us. This job isn't just a one-person job. Building a winning team, as we all know, it's the players first, but we need to have an organization that is strong up and down, from the lowest person in the organization to the highest person. And that was really important. And we wanted someone who was passionate about being part of the Chicago Bulls family. That was really important. We ended up having several conversations with Arturas over a two-day period towards the middle of last week. And look, I had heard so many great things about him, but I wasn't exactly sure what to expect when I did talk to him. And the night before our informal interview, I just picked up the phone unplanned and gave him a call. I thought it was going to be a kind of a short call just to say hello, but we had a great conversation. We ended up, just the two of us, speaking for about 90 minutes or so. And then over the next couple of days, we had several more conversations, and it was clear. It was so clear that Arturas checked every box for us. And I was excited, really excited. I knew he was the right person for us, but there was still one thing left, and that was my dad. At the end of the day, my dad, Jerry, is still the boss. So we had to have that final interview with my dad, and we did that over video. And it was clear after that meeting that we had our new head of basketball operations. I think what my dad said to me after the meeting, when we reconvened, he said, "I never thought you would find anyone as great as Arturas." So I knew we were done. And that night we were able to negotiate a deal with Arturas. Took a few minutes, and we were ready to move. This organization is at a crossroads. And we're fortunate enough not only to find someone who can lead this organization, but someone who's as qualified as Arturas. So now I'd like to officially introduce the new Chicago Bulls Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Arturas Karnisovas. Arturas, it's all yours.
Thank you, Michael. Can everybody hear me? This is such a difficult time for so many. I want to be sensitive to that as we discuss sports and keep this in perspective. There's a real hardship out there. With respect to my new role with the Bulls organization, I'm excited for this opportunity. This is my dream. Our ultimate goal is clearly to bring an NBA championship to the city of Chicago. That is what every team in NBA strives for. All we can control is our approach and the process behind every decision. A firm foundation is absolutely vital. I'll build that here in Chicago. No skipping steps. There's a systematic approach to success that will be the product of focused and intentional hard work and diligence. We will strive for constant improvement. Chicago is a great sports town with a long, robust sports history. The city is made up of very passionate fans. Earning the enthusiasm and excitement back from the fans for the Chicago Bulls is both a challenge and something I very much look forward to. These fans deserve a team that they can be proud of. And my objective is to get us back to relevancy. Thank you, everybody, and we'll take questions now.
Arturas, thank you. It's Matt Yob once again. And just real quick, folks, for everyone that's on this call, looks like most of you are using the Zoom app. So please remember to go ahead and use the raise your hand tool if you have a question, and we'll work our way through your questions. So with that said, we're going to turn it over to our first question. Looks like it's Casey Johnson with NBC Sports Chicago.
Thanks, Matt. You already introduced me. So Arturas, welcome to Chicago. I first just wanted to know what specifically appealed to you about this job.
Well, from being iconic franchise, from watching the Bulls growing up, I was telling the story of even when we lived in Jersey and our friends from Chicago would come up and we would imitate our kids running out of garage with Chicago and the music of introductions playing. So I have a long history of passion for this team and organization, and obviously to be a part of to put an impact on building this team is a great opportunity for me.
Eric, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, how y'all doing, man? It's Eric Woodyard from ESPN. Quick question is for Arturas. What are the challenges of taking over front office, during the league hiatus, like, something like this that we've never seen? And have you been able to do a serious evaluation of the roster, despite the current challenges we have going on?
Absolutely. I mean, I would be now on a plane and be in Chicago and facing you up close, and here we are on audio call and have to deal with what we have today. So I mean, I reached out to all the basketball operations staff and our coaching staff. I had numerous conversations, reached out to a couple of players, and I'll make sure that I call all roster. So it's difficult to do, to quickly impact, but I'll do my best from Zoom calls to, from gathering the basketball operations staff and coaching staff to talk about what we can do during this difficult time and when we can resume, because there's literally no timeline of resuming the season or any plans for upcoming season. So it's difficult times.
Next question here, Darnell Mayberry.
Hello, I hope you guys can hear me. Congratulations, Arturas. My question is for you. This is Darnell Mayberry from The Athletic. I was just curious about, we always hear about the Bulls needing a more modernized front office, and Michael just spoke to that in terms of the size of the front office historically being small. What does a more modernized front office look like to you, Arturas?
Well, I mean, I think, it depends on also, having a philosophy. My professional philosophy is, knowing players, constant communication, roster balance, and deal making creativity. It's a team sports. So as a leader, I have to understand the individual role and commit to execution of those responsibilities. So I mean, when I come in and I'm going to have time to do that, I'm going to evaluate the current structure and where are the blind sides, blind spots. I already, hired two guys, JJ Polk and Pat Conley, who going to join the organization. So I already started that process. And my next step is to hire a GM. This process is going to be extensive and diverse. I was telling Michael that I have advantage over him in terms of hiring a right person because, personally, I know most of those guys, in that industry. Over the years, my role in scouting and front office, I got to know them, and the list is very extensive. The talent pool is great, and I will explore all the options. I believe I will hire the best person for the job.
Thank you, Arturas. Just as a quick follow-up, I'm just curious, what are some of the qualities that you do value in a general
Well, I think
manager?
from the past structures, what I've learned is I have to hire a person that has got complement. It's not going to have the same skill set that I do. And that criteria, I'm going to keep it to myself for now. But I'm going to look for a person that is going to add something to what I think is very important to current structure.
Thank you.
Next up, Joe Cowie, Chicago Sun-Times.
Arturas, hopefully you guys could hear me.
Yes, sir.
Real quick, kind of a two-part question. What was the decision with Gar Forman and you evaluating him moving forward in the organization? And also, have you put a time frame on when you want to decide on the coaching staff, or have you made that decision of what you want to do with Jim Boylan and his entire staff?
So regarding Gar, I think after some consideration and conversation, it was apparent that we have different philosophies, and we would, that would prevent us from moving forward. I'm sure Gar gave his best to the Bulls organization, but those decisions are never easy. I was hired to effect change on the current, situation. So that was the decision behind that. In terms of talking to Jim and the rest of the coaching staff, I already started this process. I'm going to do my comprehensive evaluation of every department and ensure I give time, because as we all know, we're limited right now to what we can do. Instead of being in practice facility and being in Chicago, we are at home and we're on the audio call, so it makes it difficult.
So you don't have an exact time frame of what you want to do with the coaching staff?
No, for now we're going to be evaluating, communicating, and seeing how I can help them. At the same time, there's no timeline for hiring GM. I'm going to take my time as well, because it's a very important decision for me.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jamal Collier with the Chicago Tribune.
Hi, Arturas. Congrats. Hope you guys can all hear me as well.
Thank you.
Also, one of the moves you made today with John Paxson kind of sliding into a new role. I'm wondering just kind of how do you feel like you want to use him just as a resource kind of in this process? And did that, coming into the process, did that represent any unease? Did you have to get a lot of clarity on what exactly his role or responsibilities would be? Did you talk to him as you were applying for the job?
Thank you. I think right from the start, when during this hiring process, is that they were hiring number one decision makers. So John has a great reputation around the league, and he has been with the organization for many years and can be an asset of information. So he's been gracious and welcoming to me. I've appreciated his candor, and he has great love for the Bulls and the city of Chicago. So I see him now as an asset and could be a huge help while I'm making this transition.
We have Nick, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing, but Nick Kosmider from The Athletic in
Hey,
Denver.
Nick,
Yeah. Thanks. Hi, Arturas. How are
what's
you?
happening?
Not much. I'm gonna ask a quick question, then you can mute me so my 1-year-old doesn't interrupt the call. But I just wanted to ask, what's going to be the most thing that you're proud of after 7 years in Denver, and what was the difficult part, I guess, about making that decision from the perspective of leaving the Nuggets?
Well, the proud fact is that we created a sustainable program that is going to be successful for a very long time. Proud of the fact that for the 5th season in a row, we were going to improve winning percentage, going from 33 to 40 to 46 to 54 wins. Who knows what was going to happen this year? It's a difficult decision because I had a wonderful 7 years in Denver. I want to thank Kroenke family, Stan and Josh, for bringing me 7 years ago, and obviously Tim, who believed in me, and it was a pleasure working with him. And those 7 years, we've created a great front office, and the players that we brought in and the coaching staff. We created a functionality that would be between ownership, front office, coaches, and players, and that was the proud moment. And obviously, when I received this call and interest, it was a hard decision to make, but I was really excited and to open this new chapter for me.
All right. Our next question comes from Mike Singer with the Denver Post.
This is actually for Michael. I'm wondering what role the Nuggets organization had in informing you about Arturas and sort of making you come to this conclusion.
Unbelievable. I mean, I can't say enough about the Kroenke family and Josh. Josh and I sit on the planning committee together at the NBA, and we're very friendly. And it's awkward. You're calling someone up to ask permission to talk to one of their employees that's under contract. And I spoke to Josh that night. I think it was Friday night, and I asked for permission, and he said, "Of course." He goes, "We don't want to lose him, but in Josh's word, it's the Chicago Bulls." And so Josh and I were talking. We spoke for a while, at length that night. And I said to Josh, because the year before, I don't know, it was the year before or 2 years before, I can't remember, when Tim Conley was looking at the job in Washington, which fortunately for the Kroenke family, for Josh and the Denver Nuggets and all their fans, he ended up not going to Washington. But I said to Josh, what would you have done had Tim taken that job? Would you have hired Arturas and just promoted Arturas up to the head of basketball operations? And he said, absolutely. And that meant he wasn't going to do a search, or he wasn't going to do anything. That told me everything. And what people probably don't really realize, you do, but the one thing that Josh and the Kroenke family have done one of the things they've done really well is they have hired really good people to run their basketball team. Josh is the one that took a chance on Masai, right? He brought him, he hired him to run his basketball operations. That was not a obvious choice at the time. And then Masai goes to take the job in Toronto, and he brings in Tim Conley, who then builds an incredible organization himself. So I respect what Denver has done as a team. And as AK said, he's proud of the way they've built that organization and the way they've grown. I really admire what Denver has done and where they are today. And so that was really exciting for me. And then I think a couple nights later, I reached out to Tim Conley, and we spoke for like 2 hours. It was an unbelievable conversation. And obviously it wasn't all about AK, but it was a great conversation. So they were so happy for him, and it was it got me really excited also.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Doesn't look like we have any questions set up right now in the queue. Does anybody have anything else right now for either Michael or Arturas? Oh, here we go. 1 second. Cody, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Cody Westerlund from 670 The Score for Arturas. Just what's your philosophy in player development and how you can help the both youngsters develop in that sense? Lowry Markkanen's regression was a big concern for the team this year, and that's a big area. So what do you think you can implement to help that department, and what's your vision in that sense?
Well, one of my primary goals is to establish, player development. I mean, we are second youngest team in the league. Great young core. The Bulls drafted well. So, players want to play, but at the end of the day, they want to win. And, my job is going to be to facilitate that. And it was a huge thing for us in Denver, and it's going to be huge here in Chicago, because we're going to have to improve our players. Not only, there's 3 ways of building team. It's through your draft, through free agency, and through trades. And I think, building through the draft and developing your players is the key to get better every year.
All right. Let me see here. Jamal, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Right. Jamal again with the Tribune.
Yeah, this one's for Michael, actually. Michael, I know that diversity in the search was sort of a point of contention and criticism for you all throughout this process. I'm wondering just what was your reaction to kind of that criticism at first? And then I guess what things do you guys think you maybe can learn or going forward, maybe want to change about that process, just to, I guess, for diversity, respect to diversity?
Yeah. When I started this search, there was really never any intention to upset anyone. That's not how I am. It's certainly not how my dad is. It did hurt me to hear that people were upset with how we conducted our search, but I also understand there's always room for improvement, and we truly recognize that. As an organization, we truly value diversity across the board. And for me, diversity in thought and background and perspective. Diversity is not only the right thing to do, it's actually really the smart thing to do. And I don't know how you can have an organization that prides itself on diversity of thought and not be diverse. So during the research phase of the hiring process, we had identified multiple diverse candidates for our short list. And I don't want to discuss who these people were, but we were ultimately denied permission to interview them for our new head of basketball operations. at this point, we decided not to interview others just for the sake of interviewing them. I felt it would be just totally disingenuous and not truly fair to that person. I know Arturas shares our value of diversity, and I know he's going to continue to identify amazing candidates with diverse backgrounds and perspectives as he builds out his team, not just from a general manager standpoint, but also throughout the organization. And so I hope that answers your question, but diversity is incredibly important to us.
Next question here, Jeff Zilga, USA Today.
Yeah, this one's for Arturas. I wanted to go back, Arturas, just a little bit in your history, even as back far as the '92 Olympics. You talked about your passion for the Bulls organization. What do you remember that you could share about that '92 Olympics, and what you remember about Michael Jordan and playing Team USA?
Well, I was coming off my sophomore year in college, and my coach, actually, PJ Calissimo, was part of the staff for a dream team. So I mean, it was a special experience for me. I mean, playing USA, we got beat up pretty good. I don't know if there was a 45 or 40 point difference, but I remember every moment of that game. I had to guard Charles Barkley, yeah, in terms of obviously playing against Michael, my memory actually goes back to when we played against Chicago Bulls, when I was a part of Olympiacos, when we played a McDonald's Open in 1997 in Paris, when the NBA champion plays the European champion. And that was incredible experience there. I think that was on the road of a 6th championship that year. So it was a special memory. But in terms of Chicago Bulls, I've been following since my teenage years, since the draft of 1984 when Michael was picked. So MJ was always the guy that I followed.
We've got Eric. Oh, hold on here. Eric, are you there?
Yeah. I have one more question for you, Michael. This is Eric Woodyard again from ESPN. What you talked about earlier about, Paxson approaching you and, talking about possibly making change, but, making these moves now, during the hiatus, are you concerned or, why make these moves, right now? Are you concerned that it might affect players or, with everything they're dealing with? But, kind of going to the decision of why make the moves during the hiatus, and do you think that will affect players anyway, or how are you prepping those guys?
I don't think it's going to affect the players at all. This COVID-19 crisis is a horrible situation. At the same time, it has bought us more time to do things. And if we had waited till let's say the crisis never happened, we would have had to make we would have had to make an announcement, after the season in mid-April that we were going a different direction. We would have then gone through the process of interviewing people, and a few weeks later, a couple weeks later, we would have brought on Arturas, and then so that would have been May, and then he would have hit the ground running. And in some ways, this gives him a better opportunity to talk to people and really get to know the organization. He can spend hours and hours on the phone with Jim Boylan. He can talk to all the scouts. He can have very in-depth conversations with the players, right? Because normally after the season, the players are off and they're gone. This actually allows him to gather as much information as he can, so that when we start back up, it's seamless. So I looked at it as as an opportunity, and that's why we moved on it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Next question here is from Cheryl Ray Stout with WBEZ, or NPR radio affiliate here in Chicago.
Hi, Arturas. This is Cheryl Ray Stout from WBEZ Radio. I know you have a lot of challenges to face building a staff, looking for the right people, but how difficult is it going to be without an NCAA tournament, not knowing who's going to be available for the draft, and not even knowing when the draft is going to be?
Well, it's obviously difficult. I am actually part of all the calls that the league organizes, and we've had numerous discussions. But at this time, there are no timelines, and it makes it obviously difficult. But we're going to keep our staff busy. You know, we're going to evaluate players on video, and we're going to discuss them. We're going to rank them. You know, we're going to do all the things we can do, expecting, you know, like the draft is going to be on June 25th until the further announcement is going to be made. But again, with the, you know, with our, in our profession, everything is connected to timeline. And now not having that timeline is obviously everybody's in shock. You know, you always have on schedule, you know, trade deadline, the end of the regular season, playoffs, combine, draft, free agency, and all those things now in question. So it's very difficult, but we'll try to do, you know, our best, you know, keep on, you know, keeping everybody busy during this hard time.
Guys, our next question here is from Mike McGraw, the Chicago Daily Herald.
Hey, Arturas. This is Mike McGraw from the Daily Herald. I just want to ask you if, you know, obviously the Nuggets had kind of an unusual team where your Nikola Jokic was your leading assist guy. Do you have a philosophy on how how you want to build a team, you know, what you want your team to look like or how you want them to play, well, you know, as you're building it?
Yeah, so I already had a conversation with Jim, and I said, you know, kind of talking about, you know, what kind of style of play I would like, what kind of players I like. Obviously, I like high pace, moving the ball. You know, we were able to be a very good passing team in Denver. It's a very entertaining brand of basketball. I like multi-positional players. I like guys with high basketball IQ that play off each other. But that takes time. Obviously, you gotta read and react kind of offense, which I like. So, you know, in short term, what needs to happen is that we begin to establish a culture of who we are as a team and the expectations for winning, you know. So everybody wants to win. We just have to establish, you know, how we're going to do it and what we value. You know, I mean, you know, you look at defensively, you know, every team is trying to, you know, take shots at the rim and take away three-point shooting, trying to run off everybody off the three-point line. So, you know, sounds easy, but how do you execute? How do you, you know, establish that? You know, we, you know, just a short looking at their play last year. You know, obviously they won. I mean, now I would say we won 22 games, and I watched a lot of games. I will continue to evaluate. The rebounding and shooting were, you know, a couple of the issues. So we will we'll take a deep dive with the staff, and you know, we'll figure it out how we can help.
We got Jeff Zilgit again with USA Today here.
Yeah, this one is for Michael. And Michael, just, you know, you mentioned that it was awkward calling another team, asking to talk to an executive who's under contract. At the same time, you were also denied permission to talk to a couple of people. And I just want to know, you know, your philosophy on that, if it was frustrating not to get to talk to people you maybe wanted to. And, you know, do you think that there should be some overarching rule that, you know, says you can talk to certain people if the job is a promotion, and, you know, just your overall philosophy on that situation?
I wasn't really that frustrated because every situation is different. And so I can see, look, teams have contracts with different employees. So the team is committing to that person. And so perhaps that team that said no to us had a good reason for denying permission. And so I kind of respect that. I don't think there should necessarily be a rule in that if someone's under contract, you can just automatically get permission based on it being a higher level job. I truly respect where people are in their organizations, and I was not going to push more than just asking for permission. I mean, again, it was awkward. I was surprised by on one of the responses, but they had their reasons. So at the end of the day, what matters most to me is, did we end up getting the right person? Did we get the number one person out there? And I believe we did. So I don't think we were harmed in the situation. And I just felt bad because how the process kind of played itself out, and it upset people. And I'm not big on upsetting people, especially when our intent was to have a very diverse process. So that's kind of a long answer, but I understand again where teams are when they say yes and when they say no.
Hey Bulls fans, thanks for watching. For more videos, just check them out right here.